Hey guys, today I wanted to do a short intro into what I'm assuming might be a little bit of a lengthy video. I have shared two of these layouts already on my channel. Basically, it's my 2016 month in review. When I do month in review, I tend to pick a style or a sketch or a theme or a technique, and I do it for all 12 months. And the way that I handle month in review is it's basically all the weird one-off or two-off photos on usually my cell phone, because I don't scrapbook like single photos a lot of the time. To me, I would rather include it as more of like a glimpse into our monthly life instead of it being like a separate layout that I need to do journaling for and all that, when I won't necessarily have a lot to say about that. I would rather just kind of have it be, these are the things that I took photos of during the month, and then things that are either events or a larger story, that kind of thing, get their own dedicated layout. So like I said, I have already done March and I think it was May. And basically I took this collection, which this is from Doodlebug. This is their calendar pages. So these are from 2015, but I'm pretty sure that you can still get them because I bought these in 2018. So pretty much they all look like this. It's kind of like a calendar with a grid design on it. And then the back is basically just a B-side. And I went through and just assigned a month to each color. Some of them made more sense for like the theme, so like pink for February and that kind of thing. And then I went through and edited my photos, and I'm pretty sure, I know I've mentioned it in the process video, I'm pretty sure these are 1.3 by 1.3, and then these are like 1.3 by 3 on these like longer, skinnier ones. And then every once in a while I'll throw in like a 2.5 by 2.5 to fill in like a four-part grid or something. So I took these with me to a crop. I didn't take this one because basically, so I've already done March and May, so that leaves me 10 months left to do. I only had enough time to print 9 months worth of photos, so I still need to print photos for the 10th one. But I took these to a crop and did sort of the time-consuming task of cutting down all the photos and figuring out where I wanted them to go. Now I'm in the phase where I'm going to go start typing up journaling. And I'm not typing like stories, anything like that. I'm literally just typing bounce you, play date, wee bowling turkey, killing time waiting for Jake at school. Just literally an explanation of what's happening in the photos. And then in the other two, which again, they had like a separate dedicated process video to them, I filled in different areas, whether it be like a strip or an individual square, with pattern paper, stamping, embellishments. And my sort of theme for these ones is I'm keeping everything like monochromatic. So this one will be light pinks, this one will be yellows, this one will be like peaches, blues, browns, reds, like that kind of a thing. I'm using pretty much large letter stickers to put my title on. And then pretty much all of them I am having to, so because I'm using the same pattern and it's going to go in my album like this, I don't like the way that this looks. So on the other two, I just kind of found a way to cover this, whether it be a strip of paper going across or like a doily with something. I'll figure it out. But I'm going to cover either one or both of them to make it just not look repeated like that. That just kind of bugs me. So I did just kind of want to go through and kind of explain what this is. And I'm not going to separate these into separate videos because of the fact that I've already started tackling this in an assembly line format. I'm just going to kind of lump everything together in the video, and when I'm going through the process, I'll just kind of talk to you guys about choices that I'm making, why I'm making those choices, things that I'm looking for in my supplies to put these together, and that kind of thing. I do have some footage from the crop. that I'll put in of putting the photos down and trimming them apart and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and in the intro here and kind of get going on the, like I said, the assembly line process for these. Now, as I mentioned before, I had taken 9 out of the 10 of these with me to a crop in early October, and I spent probably the first 2, maybe 3 hours of the crop cutting apart all of my small photos, figuring out where they were going to go on the layouts, and then gluing them down. This to me was an intentional thing. A lot of times if I go to a crop, I tend to take things that don't require a lot of decisions or like creative thought involving the layout of the project. So for me, this was perfect. This was sort of just that mind-numbing, repetitive assembly line type part of the process. So I basically just kind of started with the first one and I worked my way through. Now I will tell you, I'm not going to make you guys sit through and watch me do this for all 9 of them. I did, when I came home, these kind of sat for a couple weeks, and then basically in 3 sessions on various weekend days, I managed to get all 10 of them done. But I did want to kind of share how I took almost an assembly line approach to these in order to kind of save time and just make it easier on myself. So the video for these layouts is going to be a little bit different because I am kind of cramming them in this one, which is part 1. This is going to be probably 7 of the layouts. The other 3 that I set aside, I used some design team type stuff. So I decided to separate those and kind of slow that video down a little bit. But I wanted to kind of share as much as I possibly could without you guys literally watching me do the same thing over and over and over again in back-to-back clips. So I'm gonna hope that the way that I chose to edit this video will kind of make it still be a little bit interesting and still be able to see what I'm doing and answer any questions that you may have. I did choose to glue down my photos with my favorite liquid glue. It was just really easy and fast, so that was what I did. It was just a lot faster than picking up an ATG and kind of running with it. So I went through and did 9 of those at the crop. The yellow one right there that doesn't have photos, I went ahead and dealt with the photos during the home assembly process. My next step was I took out my bag of scraps and just started looking for basically tone-on-tone papers. I prefer to go to my scrap bag for things like this first instead of cutting into new paper, because I'm not using a ton of paper. These are going to end up covering either individual squares or strips of squares. So I just kind of dug through there. I took out like a big handful of paper and just kind of went through and did a very fast look through the papers and pulled out anything that was matching the colors of each calendar page. It didn't need to be the exact color. However, July kind of gave me some issues, which is kind of why June, July, and I think September are the 3 that are going to be in part 2, just because, again, there was some design team product that I wanted to be able to slow down and talk about and kind of talk about, especially June and July with the blue and the purple. Those ones I kind of ran into a little bit of trouble trying to find things to match. So here you can see I didn't necessarily do everything in the same order, but I did follow kind of the same process. So for here, I just did really easy measuring, marked tick marks with my pencil and cut all those scrap papers. I even pulled out the basic 6x6 pads that are still sitting out from the 6x6 sketch series and pulled scraps from that as well. This was another thing that I went to first. I pulled out what I call my leftover binder, and I just went to that colored tab and I pulled out anything that I thought I could use, basically anything that was going to match the color. And I'm not really focused on theme. That was the nice thing about this project, was I was literally just looking for color and what was available. So that definitely sped up the process. Okay. The other thing that I did was, I mentioned in the intro, was I covered up those like bracket images that are printed at the top. A lot of them, I just found scrap papers that were 12 inches wide of color that matched. The only exclusion to that is April. I went with a grid design and a wood grain, which you can see here. Some of them I used a border punch. Some of them I did not. Another thing with the titles, I didn't necessarily do them all in the same order. So in this instance, this is April. I did the title last. That was just kind of how it ended up going. All of the layouts, I didn't go from photos to paper to title to journaling to embellishments. I kind of jumped around depending on my mood. Now, if I had letter stickers that coordinated with the color, so in this case aqua, I would have used them. If I didn't, then I chose to just go with any kind of metallic. So I used that silver set a couple times. I used 2 different gold sets. I wanted something that was going to basically show up, and a lot of even just the white alphabets that I had weren't showing up, and I was trying to keep things quick, so I chose not to cut my own alphabet letters for this. Stamping. Not all of the layouts had stamping. It was kind of, if I remembered to do it, to be honest, because I went back and looked in order to pull clips for this, and not all of them had stamps, and that was totally fine. I just kind of picked basic stamp sets. Some are super old. One is relatively new, which was like a title builder one, and that one was a lot of fun to be able to mix and match. December, I pulled out a Christmas stamp set, that kind of thing. And then I decided to kind of include the journaling strips at this point in the video. What I ended up doing is I just went into my word processing, which I use Word, sometimes I use WordPad. I made 2 columns and basically just typed out very basic descriptions of the photos. So here you can see, this is pretty much what I did. I used Century Gothic regular font, size, I want to say 11. And this is just something that is kind of muscle memory for me. I've done it many times. I know where to cut on my trimmer. I know how much of the letters to kind of stick out underneath my cutting guide to be able to get where I want it to be centered and stuff like that. And then I used the foam strips from scrapbook.com to attach all of my journaling. I want to say that the 2 previous layouts that I did, I just used liquid glue to glue them down. I actually preferred the foam tape a little bit better. It took more time to kind of go through and put foam strips on it. But again, to me, repetitive things like this, I find calming. And I ended up liking the look a lot. And then from here to the end of the video pretty much is just some different clips. So as far as embellishing, it was kind of free for all. I tried to go to my leftover binder first and pull things that matched color-wise or didn't clash theme-wise. I pulled stuff from there first. Then I went to things like my 12x12 sticker sheets or 6x8 sticker sheets. And again, when you're only looking at the color, I don't know, it's interesting that I used a bunch of stickers that normally I would be like, oh, that's ugly, I don't want to use it. But in this application, it was really good. And in fact, I had a couple occasions, and this layout right here with November was a perfect example. I was flipping through my sticker sheets and I came across this Bella Boulevard sticker sheet that had a sticker of a hedgehog on it. Now, it's clearly still living on that sticker sheet because I have yet to find a reason to use it. However, one of my photos in November of 2016 was my son checking out the hedgehog, or not, I guess it's not a hedgehog. What, the spiky little critter. Maybe it is a hedgehog. I typed hedgehog. We're going to call it a hedgehog. But I had a couple instances where leftover stickers ended up being perfect. This brown tab sticker that I found had a paw print on it, and I happened to have dog photos on my brown monochromatic layout. So I definitely had a couple instances where leftover product or stuff that was still sitting on sticker sheets that I normally probably wouldn't have gravitated towards, I gravitated towards intentionally on these because I was only looking at the color. Now, with certain things like October, one of the black and white pattern papers that I used was a Halloween text, but it was okay to me on certain months to kind of go theme with some of the things. So like December, I pulled in some Christmas stickers and Christmas embellishments. With September, which is, that'll be in part 2. September was yellow, and a lot of the things that I was finding were kind of going with more warmer weather and that type of thing. So here, like I'm saying, the black and white text paper that you see actually has Halloween phrases on it, but I didn't necessarily use Halloween embellishments. I definitely could have, because it would have supported what was going on that month. But pretty much I just, like, I went to my color section of my leftover binder and I just pulled out anything that I felt like I could use. And I was actually kind of excited that I used quite a bit of the leftover pieces from the family line from Simple Stories that I did the Creating with Collections series. I ended up being able to use a bunch of that stuff on a couple different couple of different calendars. From there, I just kind of went to the basics that sit out on my desk. These like label stickers kind of hang out on my desk, and they don't really get a lot of use, but in this application, I did end up using them quite a bit. Same thing with some of these arrow stickers that I've had for years, phrase stickers, that kind of thing. And I'm not going for like a balanced layout. These are chaotic random photos. My layout looks very chaotic and random, and I am completely okay with that. This is more of just, these photos don't live on my phone anymore. They're not sitting on my computer. And like I said before, I don't want to dedicate separate layouts to these photos. Does that mean that that's wrong? No, that's just my personal style and my personal way of handling all of the photos that I have. So month in review layouts, again, work for me. And you can definitely take this and do something completely similar to this. Or you say you only have 4 or 5 photos that would represent your month. You could totally print those out in 4x6 and do a single or a double page layout. Or maybe it's 4 or 5 random photos that maybe don't belong together, but they do represent what went on in your life, in your family, or your situation during that month. And probably, like, I kind of jump around on which years I'm working on. The ones where probably before or right around when I had my son, I'm not going to have that many photos. I didn't really have a smartphone until I was pregnant with him. And I didn't take as many like random one-off daily type photos back then. So when I end up working in that time frame, I'm probably going to have better examples of layouts that don't have this many photos. So this is kind of wrapping up the like video clips portion. The last couple minutes of this video is basically all of the photos. I basically did like a flat lay for each month. I've got the full layout of each month and then some close-up pictures, just because I do understand that there is a ton going on. I wanted you guys to be able to kind of see some of the different areas, and I kind of just looked at it as not necessarily embellishing specific squares and doing kind of like you would embellish with a grid design. It was more of just adding interest. Adding little pieces here and there. Especially loved being able to use leftovers, things that I would normally gravitate towards or wouldn't normally choose. I did use small things for finishing details, and it varied on each layout, just kind of depending on what I had available. If I had a Nuvo drop color that coordinated, I used that. If I didn't, I used something like enamel dots or gems, or in a couple cases, I used the little like punctuation marks that come with the thickers and the alphabet stickers, especially on like the silver set and one of the gold ones, I think. This one, again, I used enamel dots. I just kind of laid things out just so that you guys could kind of see the things that I had pulled. But most of the stuff came from my leftover binder. A lot of it came from just random sticker sheets. I didn't really keep track of that kind of thing. Some months, like August, are a little bit more full and more busy. And then some months are, like December is a little bit more spaced out and not as full. And again, I'm completely okay with that. I have to tell you guys, I am like patting myself on the back that I can say that I have one complete year of month in review layouts done. This makes me want to go back and finish the ones that I had started for 2014. It makes me want to go and start another year. Like, it really motivated me to kind of get these done, because even if I don't have the other layouts done for that whole year, I can still pull out my albums and basically get a glance of my entire year. And it was really fun to kind of look back and see that I tend to take pictures of recipes that I'm trying, or food that I'm cooking, or meal prepping. 2016 was apparently the year that my kids just didn't want to put clothing on if they were home. So that was kind of like a fun reminiscing. This was the age where my daughter literally would pass out anywhere and everywhere around our house. Just those fun, like, little snippets of what was going on in our lives in 2016. So again, this is 7 of the 12 months. 2 of them already have a separate dedicated video. I will post links below for those, and I'm also going to put them in the eye at the top right at some point. Probably should have mentioned that earlier in the video. And then, so the 7 in this video and those 2 put me at 9. Part 2, I'm going to kind of go a little bit more in depth with my process and kind of my thinking of what I was choosing for the other 3 layouts, because I did kind of come across something that really helped me out. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Please leave comments below and let me know if you already do month in review layouts, or if this is something that you're kind of curious about, or this is like hands down, nope, not for me. I find it interesting how people kind of approach, these random photos, little bits of your life. So as always, I thank you guys for hanging out with me and spending today about 23 minutes with me if you made it this far, and I will catch you guys in part 2 very soon.